It is March the 8th, and another special day for the world's women, as their achievements, struggles, tears, and joy are celebrated in one breath by the rest of humanity. However, in Nigeria, the women folk are calling out the government of the day for what they say has been a total failure to protect their children from terrorists. Before we get to our next guest, let's take a look at the following package and get back for more.
On this occasion of the International Women's Day, and at a time that Nigeria goes through trials and tribulations on her way to true nationhood, it is important to recognize the invaluable role of women in the collective attempt to bring normalcy and continue to put the nation on the map of greatness. It will simply be impossible to mention each and every courageous Nigerian woman by name in this honors list, but a few will suffice here. Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the new Director General of the World Trade Organization and two-time Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy. Amina Mohammed, who is a Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations. And a whole new generation of young Nigerian women who have been making their presence felt, particularly in business, crusade against all manners of social deviance and civil society, including Betty Abba, Executive Director, See Hope, a women and children's rights activist. Zainab Marwa Abubakar, President and Founder, Aspire Women Forum. Ndidi Obioha, Chief Executive Officer, Enthist Group. Ndi Kato, activist, politician, and Executive Director, Dinidari Foundation. Anthony Ojenagbo, a rep survivor and founder, Tonia Breast But Not Broken Network, an NGO that raises awareness of sexual violence and offers psychological support to individuals experiencing depression and sexual violence. Favor Ada Paul, founder of Tivid Orphanage Home in Makurdi, Benue State, a channel for taking in children orphaned by herdsmen attack in Agatu community in the state. Ndidi Okonkwo Wuneli, co-founder Sahel Consulting Agriculture and Nutrition and Ace Food, Leap Africa, and Nourishing Africa. Dr. Abiola Akiode Alabi, Executive Director, Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center, who is also a lecturer at the University of Lagos. Ini Abimbola, Board of Director and Advisor. Kate Henshaw, frontline actress and social media influencer, and Mary Ikoku, a development consultant, education activist, and researcher.
International Women's Day is observed to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. Every year, the day is observed on March 8th with the purpose of supporting a platform that helps to forge positive change for women. The theme for this year's commemoration is #ChooseToChallenge, which seems to be asking the question, what must women do to begin to make greater impacts, particularly in partisan politics, which many people believe could be the key to unlocking greater opportunities for Nigerian women? What can be done differently to instigate greater change? Joining us now to have a conversation around matters relevant to this year's commemoration is Cecilia Akintomide, a lawyer, former Vice President and Secretary General of the African Development Bank Group. She's a non-executive director of FBN Holdings. Welcome to the program. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be
Happy
here.
Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
Well, happy Women's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
I believe you're a he for she.
Yes, certainly.
For sure.
Certainly. Many years ago, I helped to join a group writing a political agenda for Nigerian women. But very quickly, I mean, the theme for this year is #ChooseToChallenge. What are those challenges in your view that you think Nigerian women still face, and what do we need to do at the individual, corporate, or institutional level to address those challenges, to reposition women more correctly, more effectively, and more justly? As we have seen, you know, we are very powerful women in this country. You are here, Tondon is here. Nigeria just produced the Director General of the WTO.
Thank you very much. Fantastic question. First thing to keep in mind, we're talking about 50% of our population. And we also need to keep in mind that every woman, first, coming from a developing country, every national or every citizen, anyone doing business in a developing country, you carry a tax for underdevelopment. So it's like one strike against you because you are in a developing economy. The second is if you're a woman, you carry an additional tax just by being a woman. And we haven't now gotten into issues of poverty. So just by being a woman, you carry an additional burden. So what we're looking at is how can we ease that burden? And this is not just for women. This is actually an economic issue. If 50% of the economy or 50% of the population are actually not being allowed to fully thrive, to fully contribute to the economy, then the whole society is also paying a tax for an inefficient model that we have accepted and institutionalized. So what are the things we need to change? I'll share some statistics. Let's start with agriculture. We all need to eat. Women in Nigeria constitute 60 to 80% of the smallholder farmers. When you go to a market, what you see is not just the women selling. Just know that the sweat of women in the farms is what you're seeing when you go to a market, when you go to some of the supermarkets. It's their sweat that you're seeing in the fresh produce section. However, let's get to ownership of the land. The women own like 14% at the maximum. In certain parts of the country, female-owned land is not more than 2%. So we need to change that dynamic. If we change the story with land ownership, change the story with access to credit, and being very purposeful and saying we want to target the women, we want to change the narrative for the women, it will have an impact immediately on the GDP, it would have an impact on the cost of food, it would have an impact on poverty. For example, just by changing the narrative of inequality, gender inequality, we add $229 billion to the Nigerian GDP by 2025. So it's not an issue just for women, it's for the nation, and it's giving this nation a boost to its economy. Another issue, we talked about political representation. So 50% of the population, in the Senate, I think women have out of 109 seats, I believe 7.
Yes.
If you go to the House, it's 360 seats, 11. That alone. Now, first, I would say we need to look at it two ways. More women need to vote. More women need to run. And if we women decide we're only going to vote for women, it would have an impact. If we all come out to vote and we vote for the women, regardless of what the party is saying, we're voting for the women and nobody else. And we will vote for a president that actually has an agenda for women. If we look at inheritance laws, yes, the laws have been changed. Yes, we have decisions, judgments of the courts that favor women, that seek to change the narrative when it comes to inheritance laws. But today, you keep on hearing the same story. A woman's husband dies, she's kicked out of the home with her children. And nobody cares how she takes care of that children. So we need to address these issues. It's not only about legislation. Legislation plays a key part, but that's not enough. We absolutely need to create awareness. We absolutely need to enforce the legislation. Then people will know we are serious about these issues. Allocation of resources, because you said justly. Allocation of resources on a gender basis is also important. If we do an analysis of our budget, gender-based budgeting, how much resources are we allocating to women? Let's go another step. I mean, at the AfDB, when we wanted to grow Africa's private sector, a critical intervention was procurement. We introduced national preferences, and more African companies were bidding for contracts and were winning those bids. We need to do gender-based preferences so that allocations can be made for procurement for women, that a certain percentage of procurement should go to women, not just for the public sector, but also in the private sector. These are the things that will start to change the story. And then, of course, education. It is so important to make sure that girls can have an education. Don't marry them off. And you know, the interesting thing about child brides, it's actually a vicious circle. You have, in the poorest part of the country, that's where you will find the highest level of child brides, and also where you have the highest illiteracy. Now, every child bride is actually a tax on their community, particularly if she gets pregnant, tries to deliver that baby, and develops health challenges. Who pays for it? Guess what? Her whole community. And that's why certain communities actually just steep and remain in poverty, because there is a cycle that continues that keeps them in poverty. Women that are not freed to thrive, to contribute to the family needs, to knowledgeably take care of their children so that they can raise healthy children. So each time you push a child that is not ready to actually start running a family, what you do is you stunt her growth, you stunt the growth of her children. I'll stop.
So very well said. We have two questions. Yeah. All right, we have to take a break before I ask my question.
Okay.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back for more. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. We're still with Cecilia Akintomide, lawyer, former Vice President and Secretary General of the African Development Bank Group, and non-executive director of FBN. So you made so many great points before we went on the break, so I wanted to ask you two questions based on those points. Well, a name that's very familiar to you, Akinwumi Adesina, president of the African Development Bank, said that loans to women have a 90% repayment rate. So what exactly is behind the limitations in access to credit, if I may put it that way, which we all know is such a huge problem? What are those factors? And also, I wanted to ask you how to end that cycle of poverty that you described.
Okay. Fantastic questions. Thank you very much, Tudu. Loans to women, and the very few loans to women, have a 90% repayment rate. But the women are not really borrowing. When the UN Economic Commission for Africa conducted a study, and they found out that first, a woman will invest just about all of her revenue, all of her income into her family. However, she's not willing to borrow to grow her business because first she's concerned about the risks of borrowing. So she really wants to bootstrap to grow her business. That's the first. The second is sometimes borrowing requires paperwork that the woman doesn't have. She doesn't have collateral. And you want to borrow, you're asked for security. Most of the women are in the informal sector. You have to formalize to borrow. You also need to have like the paperwork showing the track record, your cash flow, then your projections to support the borrowing. So what we need to do is actually help build capacity of our women. They're fantastic business women, but to actually break into the borrowing, into the credit ecosystem, you need to build their capacity for that credit ecosystem. We need to have small business government agencies helping the women. And then women organizations also coming together to help the women. Then you talked about the issue of this poverty trap that we find ourselves. You know, when I returned from the AfDB, you know, we quote all of these GDP figures and we quote the poverty rates. I took a walk to right behind my housing estate. It's a place called Aboki Village in Lekki.
Aboki?
Aboki Village. It's Friendship Village because everyone from every nook and corner of Nigeria lives there and lives in harmony. No, it doesn't matter whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, whatever you may be, even some non-Nigerians, immigrants, they're there. Everybody is living in harmony, but living in poverty. And one thing that struck me taking that walk is that in all of my development work, you know, poverty figures have a muted effect compared to the face of poverty. When you encounter poverty and you look it in the eyes of a child, one poor child is one child more than enough. So we absolutely need to break the cycle. And one way of breaking that cycle, keep the girls in school. Keep those girls in school. You know, each year in school increases her earnings by 14%. So keep her in school. Let her come out of school at a level where she can be a thriving, valuable citizen and not a burden. Not a burden to the person that has taken her out of school, not a burden to her community, not a burden to her nation. You know, it's nearly like we have, I'm sorry to use that word, we've created an environment where our femininity has been weaponized against us. It's like being a woman, you're a moving target. And your gender is a weapon that's been used against you. And so we absolutely need to keep women in school. And then the education needs to change. You know what? Let's talk about sex. You know, I really loved, you know, there was something on television and on the, in social media, some evangelist that was going around just before Valentine's Day saying, oh, Lai lover, Loriro. Oh, yes, it's like, it's all lies, girls. It's all lies. this can be that decision, emotional, lovely decision you're going to take around Valentine's Day.
Well, madam,
it's going to change your life forever.
we have just about 3 minutes to go.
Okay.
And there's Rufai, who is there. Rufai, I noticed you wanted to ask Mrs. Akintomide a question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abasi.
We have just about 3 minutes.
Thanks for your insight, Ma. Real quickly, number one will be, has been the deployment of the $281 million fund that was agreed upon in Biarritz last year in France for AfDB to empower women alone? Has that fund been? And secondly, why is it that we don't support a lot of women that play in the tech sector? You know, women have done great things. They're pioneering the tech sector. A lot of people don't know that the first Nigerian woman to make computers, Nigeria-made computers, was Florence Seriki, the founder of Omatech. And we don't celebrate women like that on a day like this.
To go.
Yeah.
Just 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
So please go ahead.
I didn't hear the question.
No, okay. He was asking you one about the AfDB support for women.
Yes.
And also the fact that, look, the first woman to do computers in Nigeria, it's a Nigerian.
Yes.
Florence Seriki of Omatech.
Yes. So, I mean, I had the opportunity to meet Madame Seriki when she visited the AfDB and when I came here. And she just had amazing plans, but unfortunately we lost her. But we were actually planning, because she had a plan first to build computers locally. She was way ahead of her time. And also going into renewable energy. And she had come to the AfDB, met people at the AfDB, but unfortunately, she passed away. So that was, but AfDB has been focusing on women. They have, first, they have guarantee products to help, to provide guarantees for women that are borrowing. They have resources. There's a collaboration with the EU, AFAWA, that's really to provide resources for women in business. They have a program called Fashionomics, which is, you know, helping to support women in the fashion industry. And then we have the guarantee products, which I have mentioned, and also the knowledge products. What is working and what is not working? Where do you get the maximum bang for every buck you invest in women? So AfDB is providing that knowledge that really allows governments to take the right decisions and forcing everyone in their reporting to actually report on investments to women.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but as we go very quickly, what does it mean to be a top girl, as Carrie Churchill described it, in just 1 second, if it is possible? How to succeed? What does it mean to be a successful woman?
You must bring something to the table other than your gender. You must bring knowledge, you must bring expertise, you must bring openness, you must bring humility.
Thank you
so much. That was great. That was so great.